Hello everybody. So this video is to kind of show you the right way to memorize polyatomic ions. Anyways, so most conventional ways of memorizing the polyatomic ions involve a pattern of the prefix, the root, and the suffix. So if it has, by example, a per and it ends with an 8, so perchlorate, it will have 4 oxygen atoms. The idea with this is if you memorize, let's say, the 8 or the ite, you will be able to know how many more oxygens or how many less oxygens there are. And that's great, but not for Mary's class. In Mary's class, there's something a little bit different that you need to be aware of. There are 20 polyatomic ions, and they don't follow this conventional ruling. As an example, sulfate has 4 oxygen, but then you have something funny like this, hydrogen sulfate, and notice here, 8, 8, and ite. Most of the polyatomic ions on her list end with 8. There is about, I'd say 2 or 3, maybe 4 that end with ite. So this is not going to help out at all. But if you see something like hydrogen sulfate, it will be better to memorize that the sulfate on this, it's better to remember that the charge on this sulfate is a minus rather than a 2 minus, and as you can tell, no oxygen atoms have been lost according to Mary's list. So if you do end up memorizing the conventional method, it may not be helpful, as this will not be on the exam and these are not on the list to memorize. So in order to memorize these, there is one way, but I'll talk about the other ways that people usually will kind of go into, which is flashcards. Flashcards are a bad idea. Flashcards will make it even more difficult to remember how to memorize these polyatomic ions, because if you see SO3 2 minus and then you end up seeing something like that, SO4 2 minus, you may not see the difference. You may end up memorizing sulfate as SO4 instead of sulfite, which is very similar to SO3, which is really similar, and I would not recommend flashcards. I would not use the conventional method neither to memorize these polyatomic ions. Not for now, maybe for later chemistry lessons this will be a lot helpful, but since in Mary's list we're using hydrogens for the polyatomic ion, it's a lot easier just to memorize that instead of something like that. So what better method is there? Well, there's only one really good method that I've been using, and it sucks, but it will end up helping out memorize the whole list. So the best way to memorize the 20 polyatomic ions for this course is to first make a list about this size and write down all of the polyatomic ions on there. The second thing you'll want to do is make a list about the same size. That one will cover that one, and you'll just have to go one by one and memorizing. So I'll start with hydronium. So hydronium is H3O+. Now I need to check it. Did I get it right? Perfect. So now you go on to the second one and you keep adding, and I like to add until number 5. After I get to the number 5, I go on to 5 to 10, and then I try to do the same thing 1 through 10. So hydronium H3O+, CO plus. And then we have ammonium, which is NH. And here I'm going to do a mistake, 3 plus. And then I'm going to check myself. And as you can tell, I got it wrong. So now I like to cross it and make a fold and start over again. So here I have hydronium, which is H3O plus, ammonium, which is NH4 plus. Then we have acetate, which is CH3O, oh nope, CH3CO2 minus. And then we have carbonate, which is, this is one of the unique things about doing a list like this. If you remember acetate, remembering carbonate makes it a lot easier, which is CO3 2 minus. Whoops. CO3 2 minus. Then I can go ahead and check myself, and yep, I got it right. So it sucks, but that's just repetition.